Hello, good morning, and welcome into another episode of Good Morning NASDAQ. I'm your host, Dom Master Mateo, with Clover Trading right here on the Clover Trading YouTube channel. Thank you guys for filtering in this morning. If you are new, we ask that you subscribe right here to the channel. Make sure that notification bell is turned on because we go live every morning, 8:45 a.m. right here on the channel, and we do a little pre-market prep. Generally, I am joined by either Kyle or Huddy. I'm not sure if either one of them will be filtering in this morning or not. But we basically just go over everything going on in pre-market. Any of the gappers, the highest percent gainers. We go through the daily charts, the potential dilution, the fundamental news, and see, take temperature of the market. We already got 16 likes. Love to see it. That you guys know when you pop in. Give the old like button the smash. Hit that thumbs up. We really, really, really appreciate it. How's everyone doing today? We got Ramon in the chat. William Gregory, who named his dog Clover. If you guys weren't there last night, Wine Wednesday, you guys can actually go back and watch all the Good Morning NASDAQs, all the Wine Wednesdays, and they're in playlists on the channel. They're unlisted, so not technically public, but you can go back and watch them all. Last night was a really good episode. We had all four of us on. Kellogg kind of went through his frustrations with the current market, with just the second half of the year so far in his performance, and there was some really good discussion there. So I encourage you to go back and watch it if you haven't seen it. And also, again, make sure you're subscribed right here so you don't miss any future episodes, because we do Wine Wednesday every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. All right. Let some people filter in. Get my scanner dialed up. All right. Let's go over to the scanner and get going this morning. We got a 121% gapper, an 80% mover, and a 50% mover kind of taking over the list. APLM is the first one on the list that just got going here a couple minutes ago. So let's take a look at this one. Apollomics. Float 69 million. That seems wrong. 80 million Class B converted to Class A on September 29th. No lockup except founder shares and insiders. Okay, so this is a SPAC or recent SPAC, which tend to confuse me. News is Apollomics announces the first approval of verbetulinib for MET exon 14 skip non-small cell lung cancer. They had similar news a couple weeks ago regarding lung cancer and this drug. They're a biotech company. I'm assuming that float is a lot lower than what it's showing there. Overall risk of dilution is low. Let's take a look at the chart. And this is that news from a couple weeks ago where the stock topped out right here at 145, call it 150. We're already over that this morning. That did 94 million that day. So it was a bottom bouncer that tried to get moving on just okay news and was unable to really get going, turned into a pretty thick red candle. The stock was unable to go any higher on pretty good volume. Okay, so recent stock. That's really the only day of interest in terms of volume. That's the first thing I look at when I pull up the daily charts. Go back as far as possible that's relevant and find big volume and see where it topped out. That's where there's supply. That's where bag holders are in from. That's where the stock is probably going to struggle, if it will. You do have this consolidation area for many months in the 4 to 6 area, but it's really, really low on volume. Like I'm talking some days 40K. 30K, 18K, not a lot that's going to affect the stock from those levels. So got going here at 8:30 a.m. Spike from 90 cents to a high of 210 so far. So we'll see where this one consolidates and goes as we move into the open. Still 39 minutes to go till the open. First kind of thoughts on it. Pretty clean chart over the main resistance. We'll see if we don't go much higher pre-market, if that 150, 145 area does come into play as resistance becoming support. But yeah, up already a ton right now, so not really interested in the long. Already up 120%. We'll see if that pulls any other big gappers up with it. I'm trying to think of the gappers this week. We had 10X, which ran quite good on FDA news. BCDA gapped and failed on similar news. So we'll see if APLM can light fireworks here on this Thursday as we move into the end of the week. Next stock on the list is Wave D. Let's take a look at this one. Let's see what the news is. 1.5 million flow. I believe I saw this was a recent reverse split. They reverse split in mid to the end of October, which is something we've seen kind of a little pattern taking place. Oh, wait. Someone's joining. Hello?
Morning.
Hello?
Good morning.
You're really quiet.
Is this better?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Welcome in, Huddy. Yeah, so these low float, recent reverse splits, where the share count goes way down, the floats are a lot lower. We've seen a couple of those run. Life W comes to mind. There's been a few others in the last week. I'm blanking on the ticker, but definitely a theme we've seen recently. So Wave D is a recent reverse split. Floats down to 1.55 million, a very low number. And the news is that they are merging with Firefly Neuroscience. 1.4 months of cash left on a quarterly cash burn of basically $1 million. There's not much in the way of dilution, but they do need money. Let's take a look at the daily chart. We have a really big volume day. Well, actually, not even that big, 11 million, but the stock topped out at $9 after a morning spike, then closing below the open and fading for multiple days. Let's go back on the chart, see if we can find any other areas of concern or resistance. And as I go back more years, really not all that much either on this one. Just that one day we're at, what is this day? 8-2. Let's see what the news was there. Don't see anything. Okay, so one day of resistance that really matters on this chart. Really not the most volume-esque day either. Yeah, it ran from like 5 towards 9. And this morning already up 85%, up from $1.50 yesterday. Got as high as 380s this morning. And just kind of going sideways into the open. You have any thoughts, Huddy?
Not really. On reverse split plays, I feel like, the play is already kind of come and gone. I probably want to be a part of this uptrend in the pre-market, kind of using that strategy. As far as the chart goes, I do think that this resistance from August 2nd is going to come into play. It's probably, 10 times the price. They did a 1-to-10 reverse split. So, this resistance is kind of at like that $8 level in my mind. But it's big volume relative to what the stock trades. So it's going to be significant. History of kind of a failure. So again, it's kind of a float where I don't really want to trade it either way. Without like massive dilution, with the PR, it's kind of something I want to avoid to the short side, and to the long side, I think it's already extended. So it is what it is.
Okay. We talked about APLM. Have you taken a look at that one yet?
I was staring at it for this whole last week at this base it was making at 80 cents. And obviously I wasn't going to buy it because I couldn't have predicted this. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Do you
Definitely a
understand
weird.
the dilution tracker on that one, the fundamentals? Because the development in the last couple weeks, it says 80 million Class B converted to Class A on September 29th. No lockup except founder shares and insiders. Is that why the float is so big, but it's trading like a low float?
I think Class A and Class B shares are like mainly like voting rights. I don't know if that's necessarily. I could be wrong, but like Series A, Series B warrants, like those are things I'm looking for. I think Class B and Class A are like different voting rights. I don't know if they convert the same way. Again, I could be wrong. It says no lockup except founder shares and insiders. Um, so maybe they have some shares at cheaper prices that they can dilute with, but you'd have to go into the filings and really look for those.
Okay, yeah, because the only thing they have is warrants is SPAC warrants at
Yeah.
1150, but I'm just kind of befuddled by the float because this is not a 70 mil float the way it's trading pre-market on relatively
Kind
light
of reminds
volume.
me of like, I mean, it kind of reminds me of kind of like a liquidation play in a weird way, like a TOP where it's like it shouldn't be spiking like that it is. But I guess that was a low float, so it's different. But
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, next gapper on the list. And those are really your two main stocks that have gotten attention this morning that are doing relative high volume, at least moving 80 to 150%. APLM still going higher. BBLG. Looks like the move has come and gone here. Had a nice morning spike from 80 cents to $1.05 and has already come back in all the way back into the 70s and 80s here. So not super strong going into the open. News there is like, oh, I remember. I couldn't find news on this one. So if anyone else has news, let me know. But I couldn't find news. Looks like it popped yesterday and after hours. I saw some article yesterday about it being a buy, but that was about it. So ran after hours yesterday, tried to make new highs today, failed, is right back into that 75 to 80 cent support. So we'll see how that one opens. Huh?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I heard a loud noise. 133 resistance on the daily chart there. That will most likely come to play, even though we've already done more volume today. That's still quite a ways away. Big gap down. 380s down to the 170s a couple months ago. There's one wave. Is this? Oh, no. Nope, two prints. Okay, so those are really the biggest gappers of the day. APLM is probably going to garner the most interest going into the open. It's the freshest runner, having only been running the last 30 minutes or so. Pretty much just straight up since it started trading. Where's this gapping from? Okay, 90 cents. So we'll see about that one. Vanessa says Finviz says 4.67 float on APLM. Where would Dilution Tracker be getting that from? Let me see what this filing say. Where are you? What does it mean if there's no 10 Qs?
Says there's a 51 mil float on Yahoo Finance. 24% institutional ownership. So immediately makes me think that like if there's an institution involved, they probably want to manipulate the stock and not let it crash. Um, but yeah, I don't have an accurate float number. It's hard to tell with everyone having such difference of numbers.
Yeah, in that case, I think it's best to kind of go off of the price action. It clearly doesn't appear to be trading like a 70 million float with just how thin it is and how easily it's been able to spike on what, only 10 million shares so far, $20 million volume.
I mean, it's
Okay.
definitely an interesting one.
Definitely an interesting one. Austin says, "Can BEGI spark the crypto sector in OTC?" I don't think anything's sparking anything. That's a nice run from 0002 to 0087. I do not miss having to do the math on these low price stocks, like low price, low price, low price stocks, and calculate how many shares you need. Just the volume's not good enough in the OTC market these days, and until we see one, and we have one or two a year that separate themselves. They're generally not these cheap stocks. They're over $1 stocks usually that garner some interest where they're liquid enough to trade. They go on multi-day runs. HCNWF comes to mind for this year. I believe it was this year. Yeah. So it happens. But even though this is a nice move and it's clearly making a run off its lows on increased volume, just the volume's still just really not all that interesting. I mean, this is yesterday. Like, there's a range, but it is ugly and, in my opinion, not even tradable with a small account. So I would really need to see a lot more than something like this to get me interested in any sort of OTC these days. Where can we see future reverse splits? Do you have a website you use? I know on E-Trade they have like a calendar. I think on Thinkorswim as well, where you can see all the events happening for that day, earnings, news, reverse splits.
I think Dilution Tracker has a column for it. Could be wrong.
Oh, I think they do. I'm gonna click it and see what happens. Right here, dilution tracker, upcoming and completed reverse splits. Vote approved. Let's see. Where are these dates? I gotta go all the way to the bottom. Okay, yeah. So like, there's Life W in the past, 10/13/23, ran this last week. So we got
Tenon was one.
Tenon. So the upcoming ones. What's today? 11/16. So AEY is reverse split today. And then these guys right here are all coming up in the next few weeks.
Yeah, the whole idea behind the reverse splits is like it's not just like stock reverse splits, buy it. Like it and it's a tough strategy because I think there's a lot of landmines that are within it, but it's working really well right now. It's basically like you're looking for a stock that has compliance issues that need to hold a buck, and that's like the main reason why most of them are going to reverse split in the first place, to get the share price over $1 so they can reach that NASDAQ compliance bid. And like the ones that work really well, and you can look at it, Wave D, it's kind of one of them. It's like they open up around that like $3-4 range, and then it's like straight red candle, straight red candle, straight red candle, all the way down to 1 in less than 10 days. And the whole idea is if they do that in less than 10 days, there's going to be like, hopefully, in theory, again, I don't really play the strategy because it scares me, but the whole idea is if it gets near a buck within 10 days and they still need to hold over a buck for 10 days consistently, there likely is some kind of, BSPR and or some bid that is going to try to hold the stock up above a buck, whether the BSPR spikes it above a buck or whether they just are there at a buck. Their whole goal is to kind of manipulate it higher so that they can reach compliance. So again, I don't really play it, but if there is a reverse split, like, and I really want to do the research, that's the kind of research I'm doing.
Yeah, and I know Roland is kind of the godfather of the reverse split strategy. And a few years ago, I'm trying to remember, 2019 or 20, it was really lucrative. It appears it's making its move back. I think he traded REE like as a swing trade. That was a recent reverse split. There's a couple different ways to go about trading them. I've always found it to be kind of difficult. What?
He did Life W, he did NVOS, he did, Tenon. He's done all of them lately.
Yeah, and it's kind of like pumps in my opinion. Like, you got to have a strategy that works across all of them because it's not a for certain type of thing where they all just rip and run. And I know Roland's going through the fundamentals, reading more about why they're doing the reverse split and kind of evaluating his plan based off of that. For us who are just kind of looking for multi-day runners and waiting, it's just best to understand what's hot and what's working. And so when you see, a multi-day runner or a newly low float stock because of reverse split. It's just it's important to know that it's kind of a theme right now. And I've definitely seen it in the comments and stuff that people are definitely looking more into those again. So we'll see if it continues.
Yeah, it's just, you're kind of in a world where a lot of stocks need to reverse split. So there's going to be a lot of them kind of in the future. It's all about that frequency thing. Whereas if like there's a lot happening at once, uh, it's better. And just where the market structure is and market dynamic is, a lot of stocks got beaten up into that, sub penny range. And they need to achieve financings. They need to stay listed. They need to get money, and they can't do it by pumping their stock price up these days because there's no liquidity. So they do reverse splits, and so there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and that's understanding the macro reason why, because it's an easy way to get your stock price up, remain compliant, pump it up, make some money off of it. All of these stocks are essentially vehicles. Very few of them will ever go on to do amazing things to become real companies. Lots of them are not even real companies. They're just designed to make money for the few that are involved at the expense of the shareholders for the most part. So it's important to understand what you're trading. You always hear Nate say, know what you own. And that's why we try to go through the do the due diligence, go through the fundamentals, get a snapshot of what's going on behind the scenes with a lot of these companies, because we're really looking to take advantage of very small portions of these moves for a short period of time, and then let the stocks go back into whatever they're going to do, which is usually fade and sideways. Let's see here. All right. Do you like BLNK for a first red day today? Before I even type it in, I have not even had it on my watch yet. 270 to 450. Blank it's an old EV company, right? I remember I was visiting you in Arizona when this thing was on its massive run.
Yeah, it is. It's a charging station.
Oh, how have they fallen? This is kind of an example of exactly what I'm talking about, is when the music stops. This one lasted a lot longer. I'm guessing this is, at this point, much bigger of a float. 60 million, and I believe it. And you just look at this clean fade from those highs. Once the momentum dried up in that sector, it's retraced almost the entire move. It just took a long time to do so. In terms of actually trading it, because it's not like a low float, small, not even low float, I mean like lower market cap. It's a lowish market cap. Let me look at the chart. How do you the first red day specialist?
I mean, I see the pattern, but it's not like the best version of it, but I could see it working. I generally like more volatility. So like, this kind of run started at 275 and we're at 4. So, each candle, I like it when each candle is kind of pushing like 25, 30%, and then it gets bigger and then it speeds up at the end and the volume grows and we have an exhaustive candle and then it falls apart. Like that's kind of the A+ version of it. This feels like more of like a 4-day run, which is probably due for a pullback, but like, do I expect first red day like glory? No. But maybe like one of these days there's the same size candle, it's pretty much trading about 50 cents a day, maybe less. So eventually, yeah, I do expect like a 50-cent red candle pullback type of idea, but not really like a full-fledged like daily chart pattern. Not really my favorite like short interest and institutional ownership and just general like what this stock is. It's not really, doesn't strike me as a penny stock.
Yeah, I think that's the big one. It fits a lot of the technical characteristics. There is increased volume relative to the daily chart, but it is just barely. It's very consistent. Just kind of feels like a stock bouncing off its lows versus, a low float runner that and this is all based off earnings as well, Huddy. 6 days ago.
Yeah, no, this feels, I don't know. For me, it's like this is more attributed to market bounce than,
Yep.
Stock having a euphoric moment and having an event where it's very unique and, it's obscene what's going on. And it's those situations that I want to be a part of, right? Again, like, can a pullback happen? Sure, any day. You got a 50-50 chance of being right. But is it like the exact perfect version of a first red day preceding action? No. It's just 4 days in a row. I did a video lesson on this for like a while in my career. All I did was look for like stocks like this, like 3, 4 days in a row, and I would take the shot, right? Um, and it made me good money for a while. But then I realized like I'm taking too many tries on things. My win rate's not great, and I need to find what kind of first red days do I specifically want to short sell? What market caps? What dilution? What extension? What does the volume look like? What does the sped up price action look like? All of that matters. It's not just 3 candles in a row. Let's go short. Although, again, I got away with it for years. So, I'm sure to someone's dream, like that's someone's world and they do well with it. But I'm always in the boat of trade less and find quality over quantity. And that's just where my teaching has led me.
Okay, last one, and we'll get on out of here. AIRE for a multi-day breakout, beaten down chart, flag breakout, low float. This one interests me. It's a AI stock that kind of just bounced off its lows. It's got massive range for whatever reason. Apparently, it went to 500. Kind of like a fresh chart down here, just due to how much volume it's done the last few days, comparable to the rest of the daily chart. And this is one that it's on my watch list. Excuse me. And it's seemingly not breaking down. You have the giant after hours squeeze from 4 to 18. Shorts attacked it. They got paid, faded back all the way sub 7 before having a small bounce back. And now we've just kind of in this choppy pattern of lower high, higher low, lower high, higher low. And, if you're one of those guys that draws a lot of lines and, looking for some sort of trend break, clearly some sort of, what do you call these, flags happening right now. And the stock certainly is very mid-range, right in the middle of the highs and lows. Kind of seems like whichever way it breaks soon is the way it's going to go. I don't know enough about the company to kind of, we've all been kind of confused on this one whenever we talk about it. But it is a low float. It is in an interesting industry. And it's got massive range, doing good volume. And I know for a fact it's got to be twisting up shorts a little bit just because of how much commentary I see about people interested in shorting it. So really, it's Thursday going into a Friday. We'll see if this low floater can make some noise. I think today will go a long way in kind of deciding the future for the stock, because if it breaks to the downside of that downtrending and kind of is an ugly red candle towards 9 or lower, probably unlikely it continues higher. But if today is a green candle and with a big body towards 14, 15, there's a lot of range on this chart, and I think it could get a little nutty. So one I'm definitely watching for sure. You have any thoughts on it, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to buy anything. So, probably if you're long bias, definitely listen to Dom. Um, but for me, like all I'm doing with this stock is probably putting it on a watch list, on my AI watch list, and just being aware, like kind of what I was saying yesterday, just being aware of the fact that it is AI, that it did have a nice run, and it does have specific levels at this point, although not the cleanest, because it does have some after hours action that would be. I don't necessarily know which level is the most significant. There's definitely volume at 17. There's definitely volume at 16. There's volume at 14. So for now, it's like for me, until we see like real AI stocks running, like as a group, and one of them is like breaking out huge, like I don't really have interest in buying breakouts. So again, yeah, the most thing that I'm going to do with it is just add it to my AI watch list and just be aware of the fact that it exists, be aware of the fact of its levels, and then maybe save it for a rainy day that AI is going nuclear. But that's not really right now.
Yeah, it's not one that I'm like thinking about buying out of the gate or really like watching very closely right now. But it's kind of like I said, like one of those where I check in on it every single day. I'm like, wow, AI RE is still above 10. Wow, it's still holding up. Wow. And when I really would be expecting that a move from 4 to 20 basically should be a lot lower, in my opinion. So if it continues to defy the odds and hold up, I have a feeling you're going to see some short sellers in a pickle or in a bind. And just due to the nature of this daily chart, it is intriguing just because there's so much range to the upside on a relatively low float stock that's quite expensive, $10 to $15 shares, expensive for a low float like this. So I'm interested to see how it pans out, but I don't really have the highest of hopes. It'd be one of those surprising ones where I wouldn't be shocked to see it at 20 or higher, but I'm not really expecting it either. Would you think the recent 424B3 news would impact it? When was that from?
I didn't know what this is. I looked into it.
You didn't get it?
Yeah, I mean, they're not all kind of easy for me to understand.
Oh, no, there's nothing about this stock that's easy to understand.
Yeah, especially this type of stock. I think it's like an exchange of some sort. Where is it? The 1106 prospectus.
Yeah. Will not receive any proceeds from the sale of shares of common stock.
On an S11. Yeah, the resale of 4.1 million shares.
What was that? 11.6. So there was actually some volume on that day and kind of a doji, and then went lower in the following days. Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank you, Huddy, for joining us. Thank you all for being here today. We will see how today pans out with APLM, Wave D, AIRE. Been a slow week in the market for me. I know for the rest of the Clovers. Just kind of sitting back waiting for runners. We had 10x. We had BCDA gap up a lot. Nothing's really continued. Nothing's continued higher and turned into multi-day runs that are of interest for shorting, of interest for multi-day breakouts. It's just been quiet in that aspect, but that's kind of the way this year's gone. And it certainly pays to be patient for the best of the best, because they don't come around every single day. It's not that type of market where there's just 3 to 5 opportunities to make mistakes and get paid for it. You got to be very particular, very meticulous in your approach. And that's what we are trying to teach over at Clover Trading. And that's where we're going to head right now. If you want access to that, Huddy and Jack Kellogg are doing a webinar today at 11 a.m. So we do have a 7-day, $7 trial. If you're interested in getting, having a little taste of Clover to see if it's for you or not. If not, we are live every single day, 8:45 a.m. for Good Morning NASDAQ right here on the Clover Trading YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed right here. Make sure you're hitting that like button and make sure the notification bell is turned on so you get notified every single time we go live. That's all for me. That's all for Huddy. We will see all you Clovers in the room in the next few minutes. Have a wonderful Thursday, everybody.